So today we're going to be doing a little bit of crappy makeup because this is my day mommy makeup and this is what I look like if I only have like 10 minutes to do my makeup, so don't bash me for it. But today I'm going to be telling you the story of my life and how I finally got to meet my dad at 30 years old. If you would like to follow me on TikTok, it is linked below. My Twitter is linked below. My Instagram is linked below. And yes, this is going to be a little bit interesting. It's going to be a little different. So hashtag sensitive sissy warning. If you can't handle the truth, if you cannot handle my opinions or what I'm going to talk about, well, honey, you're in the wrong place. So we're going to be doing some makeup, but I'm also going to do a story time. And I am currently 30 years old. And I know this is a difficult year. Like boom, like hit you in your face type of difficult year. But I, this year at 30 years old for the first time, met my father. And I thought I would make a video because quite honestly, it was emotional for me, and I thought that I would share it with you because I don't know. I'm a girl who gets really emotional really quick. I cry about everything, so I'm going to try to keep myself together. But I don't know. Maybe it's something that I could share with somebody if you have not met your father, if you have not met your family, that there is still the possibility out there to meet them and to make this happen, and how my experience was, and how I feel today. So for those of you who asked on one of my last videos, I'm going to be telling you what makeup I'm using. It is the Revolution Pro Ultimate Coverage Crease Proof Conceal. I don't use it under my eyes, but I do use it right here to do my makeup. And please do not judge my brushes. I suck. I'm a mom. But anyways, we're going to get into the topic today of meeting my dad for the first time at the age 30. My dad was a soldier in the army, and being that he was stationed in Germany, in Hohenfels, Germany, basically he met my mom there. She was working in the, I think it's called a mess hall. I don't know. That's where she was working. She was working in the kitchen, and so she had a couple American friends, and that's how they met. When I was a little kid, I did not have any contact with my dad, and neither did my mom. When my dad got back to the States, he offered my mother to come, but she didn't want to. They were very young, and there's no judgment there, so she decided to stay in Germany. Growing up, I felt kind of a little bit lost. Let me be honest, I felt a little bit lost because I was one of the only mixed girls in my little German town. And so, not that they were not used to having African American soldiers there and that there were not already biracial children, but in my town, I was the only biracial child. So growing up, I just felt a little bit lost. I felt a little bit misplaced. And, it's not the same way today because there's just a lot more children like me there, and not just American, but also African mixed children, like their parents are from Africa, and, you know, they mixed and mingled with Germans. But in my time in the 90s, it was still very fresh, new, and different, and few and far in between. But anyways, my mother and grandmother and grandfather raised me. My grandfather was like my dad, and I appreciate him for that, for making me feel like I have that strong male figure in my life. And I never got to talk to my dad until very, very later on in life, as in I actually looked for him. I went on Dogpile, and I have to credit my best friend Jennifer, who helped me back then. Hi, Jennifer. I know we haven't talked in a long time, but she's a wonderful person who actually helped me learn how to speak English. Between her and my mom's friend Melissa, they helped me learn how to speak English. This is the Sydney Grace palette, by the way. I'm going to be using it for my brows. So, yes, I learned English from Jennifer and Melissa. Melissa was my mom's friend, and I started learning English. And as time went on, my mom met a man who became my stepdad, and I had the chance to go to a American military school on base. Not military as in hard drills military, but a military school on base. Through that, I met Jennifer. I credit her a lot for helping me the first year in American school. Like, she was my rock. Like, she was the one who supported me on AR reading. You know, guys, I was not good at English at that time. And she actually like helped me study. She helped me learn the ways, you know, not the ways of the Jedi, the ways of American school. And through that, we created a good bond. And I actually opened up to her and said, the man that my mom is with is my stepdad, and I have never met my real dad. And she said, well, why don't we look him up? Do you know his name? And quite honestly, at that time, I knew my dad's name. I did not know his full name in 6th grade. I did not know. I had to go and bother my mom, and sneakingly, kind of like, hey, who is that? And who is he? And through that, I went back to school. And back then, we had time on the computer in school because at home, we did not have a computer. My mom was totally against the internet and computers. She lived like totally secluded life with me, to be honest. So I used the computer at school with my friend Jennifer, and she was typing in the name on Dogpile. Who remembers Dogpile? So we were looking and looking, and I found him. I knew what state he lived in. Do I dare calling him? And mind you, I'm in Germany, which makes it more expensive to actually call him. And I don't know. I felt like I didn't have, the kahunas to like actually speak to the man who is supposedly my dad. And I wanted to find out, is that really my dad? Like, is this the person who was with my mom like all these years ago? And I was created out of that. So I had to find out, and I tried to work up the courage to dial the phone number. So eventually I finally got the kahunas and figured out a number to dial. And that's again where my friend Jennifer comes in. She helped me find the in front dial number where it's cheaper to call to the States. So in secret, I called the man who I thought was my dad for the first time. And it wasn't him who answered the phone, it was his wife. And mind you, I did not know anything about my family. I had no idea who they were, if he had any more children, if he had a wife. And she answered the phone, and I told her who I was. And she was like, oh my God. Like I think she was shocked that I called, because in all honesty, my mom and my stepdad never really helped me with finding my dad, because my mom just had such a anger. She was a young woman who had a child, and the father is all the way in a different country. And I think she was just really, really upset. And I think that though my dad's wife was startled by the fact that I'm the 6th grader little kid calling by myself without permission of my mom and asking for my dad. He was at work. At that time, I believe he worked at like this airplane manufacturer place. And so she was like, can you call me back, or can I have your number? I was like, no, you cannot have my number. You can't have my number. I will call back. Tell me when to call back. And once she gave me I think she even gave me his cell phone number. And so I called him, and he confirmed that he was my dad. And with that, like my whole, like, I didn't cry, but I was like, oh my God, that is my dad. Mind you, 6th grader over here, 6th grade Mel Sparkles over here, just sitting there almost like in tears, like trying to think of things to say, trying to be like a grown up. And he was like, yeah, I am who you think I am, and I can tell you whatever you need to know. And the first thing he tells me is that I have siblings. And I think that was a big changer for me. I had a brother that I didn't know about. I always wanted a big brother, but I'm the oldest. Mind you, I'm the oldest. It doesn't matter. I'm the oldest. And I have a little brother and a stepsister in the United States somewhere that I have never, ever met, never spoke to. Now we get to the juicy bit. So it's time to leave Germany. My stepdad is getting stationed somewhere else in the United States. He has to leave Germany. His time is up. So we get our stuff ready, our paperwork. We're getting ready to leave to go to the United States. And I thought to myself, oh my God, he's actually getting stationed in the place where my dad lives, like in the same state. But before we moved there, I had to live in North Carolina for a little bit. And here's where it gets a little rocky. I could not adjust to life in North Carolina. And here's why. Because that was my first time living in the United States. I had visited the United States prior to that. I got to go on vacation to Orlando, where I still like going to vacation at. And my best friend lives in Florida. So I'm like, I love going to Florida. Anyway, I move with my mom, my stepdad, my sister, and we live now in North Carolina in a small town where I could not get used to things. I was always a very creative, artsy person. I would draw stuff on myself, on my pants, on my shoes, and kids made fun of me horribly. I wouldn't go to school for weeks at a time, and that made me miss school and school more in America that I actually needed to be successful in my education. Again, Sydney Grace. But again, so my stepdad's family was very big into education, and education meant the most to them. And I was lacking. I was really lacking, and I got into arguments. The kids in the school really didn't like me much. So my mom thought, what better idea than to call her real dad and ask, when we go to Georgia, can she stay with you? And here's where it gets rocky. I don't know how the conversation really went, but it never ended up happening. And I moved with my mom and my stepdad to Georgia, and I went to Groves High School in Savannah, Georgia. I lived in Pooler for a bit. And the kids there were horrible to me as well. That was the first time I heard from somebody, you're not white, you're not black, you're not anything. And I was over it. I rebelled. There was one art teacher in Pooler, Georgia that was really nice to me. And he saw that I was just very creative, and he wanted to push me to go to the Savannah School of Arts and stuff. But my grades just weren't there. I was emotionally drained from living in the United States. And at that time, I didn't know, but later I found out that I actually had family members from my dad's family live not only like a few miles down the road from me. I could have even gone to school with them and I wouldn't have known. And at that point, my mom was just like, no, you can't handle the United States. You need to go back home. You need to go home to Germany. So because I was that rebellious child, they had to actually drive me from Savannah, Georgia, all the way back to North Carolina because I threatened to get off the plane and just run into the United States. And I had no idea how big the United States was. Okay, just saying, I was that stupid German girl. And so they put me on a one-way plane ticket back to Germany to live with my grandparents. And a lot of stuff happened in Germany, and that is for probably another video. But this is where we get to the part of present me, the crazy flamingo me, and working my way back up to a relationship with my dad. So like I said before, I was a very rebellious child. I was not really behaving well, but in Germany, I gained my emancipation at age 16. And my mom signed it off very willingly, and I basically was my own babysitter at age 16. Now, mind you, I was so brainless and stupid at age 16, I had no clue what to do. I had to sign my own school papers. I had to, it's not the dream of every child, trust me. I know some people are like, well, isn't that awesome? You're in charge of yourself. You can tell yourself when you got to go to bed. That's not how it really works, okay? That's really not how it works. But anyway, and then we get to the part where I meet my husband. I go to the United States, and I've talked about that on my TikTok. So a lot of you guys might not know that I took a trip this year, a very, very long trip. I went to Florida, and we did it safely. I drove, we didn't fly, and I sanitized everything. We wore masks, so don't worry. And we're healthy, we're good. But I took a trip to Florida, to Orlando. And when I was telling my dad that I'm going to Orlando, he was like, well, when are you going? And I was like, well, I told him when I was going to leave to drive. And he said, well, what about we meet up? Like, which route are you taking through the United States so I could plan on seeing you? And I told him, and eventually we figured out that we would meet somewhere. Ooh. And ooh, oh, that just happened. So we figured our midpoint would probably, for him and me in Florida, would have been Lake City. So my husband decided to make my dreams come true, and we would stay an extra day in Lake City and just meet with my dad. And let me tell you, being 30 years old and meeting your dad for the first time is a surreal experience, because you have to say you already went through like a major part of the molding in your life, okay? And now you are meeting your father at 30 years old. If you guys ever wonder what blush I use the ColourPop Sailor Moon, and you see this one, this is my blush of life. So now that we have the blush out of the way, my feelings at first were, oh my God, how am I going to behave around this man? Mind you, I've never seen him once in my life. We've talked on the phone for years and it's never happened. And I was worried that he was not going to show up and I was going to be stood up and not get to meet him and feel disappointed. And it's not that I didn't think my dad was responsible enough to not tell me if he just couldn't make it or if it was too much for him. But he actually brought my uncle, his wife, my uncle's wife, my brother came, and it was overwhelming. Like, I have videos of it and I have pictures of it that I will share after I post this video here on YouTube, on my Twitter and stuff. But it's like I felt emotional because it's a full circle. I finally know where I come from, where my crazy comes from, where like who I am. Like, it's a full circle moment after all these years of feeling a little bit misplaced in the world and being told all these things, like that I actually fit somewhere. Like, my whole life makes a little more sense. And we got to have a good big breakfast together. We got to talk. I got to just be around him and hug my brother and my family, my uncle and everything, and say, oh my God, I belong somewhere. And he finally got to meet his grandkids. He finally got to meet my husband. He got to see me in real life and got to see who I am. And I think that now, after making all these videos of not knowing where I belong and people always saying, well, you're not Black. Well, yeah, I am. Yes, I am. And I know I am. And I know where I come from. And I know where my family is. And I know that we're going to be meeting up again next year. I know we will. And I know we will have a good time. And I'll get to meet the rest of I have a huge family, guys. I have a huge family in Georgia. But I wanted to share my story for everybody who is looking forward to one day meeting their father. And this is the story of how I finally got to meet my dad and my family. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video so we can talk a little more and chat. If you have some stories to share, please share them below. I will definitely read them and I will definitely respond to your comments, because I would love to hear from you. If you had the experience of meeting your dad, a parent, a family member that was missing in your life and you never got to meet and you finally got to meet them, please tell me the story, and I have spoken.